Wake up, Laurie. Laurie, wake up. We've got to feed her. Laurie, up to the Atoms. Laurie.
Oi, what you doing, you neck lump? I'm sleeping. You watching?
No, we've got to feed our beautiful butterfly cup, else she will clap us again.
You know I need my 40 winkles. You only let me have a few. I need 40.
Oh, but you know what our bumblebee bunny says. Early birds is tasty birds, you worms. Now fetch us a fat goose.
She's not a bunny. She's ugly as orc vomit.
Hey, I only spewed up that orc because you thumped me in our belly. Sides, she's the mostest precious love buggle ever. Oh, she made hanks and pangs with us.
She only do that one time. Now we slaves. I am lone giant ranger, not some hill giant drudging. That you. Now let me sleep some more winkles or I'll thump our belly again.
Hey, I'm not hill giant. I's Ettins too. Now help me feed our bridely baby bump. Wait a minute. You're not a loner. How can you be alone?
Well, I can't, can I? 'Cause you keep following me round all the goo-go over some gutter tramp.
Oh, that's it. No more cracks or I'll crack you good.
She's ugly as bugs and bears chillins.
That's it.
You wanna take me?
Oh, yeah, I'll take you and all your winkles too.
Feed yourself to the gutter tramp.
Oh, that's it. You look nervously at your most scholarly comrade, a rancid stench stinging your nostrils. The only thing you can read from her face is that she may regret having studied any of the giant language at all. And one thing is for sure, she is having a hells of a time translating. This two-headed brute in front of you is terrifying enough, but to not be able to read the situation is agonizing. But at least they haven't noticed you yet. You're guessing they are arguing, but the more guttural languages of such filthy creatures always makes them sound angry. All you've been able to gather from your comrades so far is that they are called Lori and Nori, and one of them wants to sleep while the other one is hungry? For chickens, maybe? Both good reasons to be in a bad mood, you suppose. Suddenly, this Lori-Nori creature starts hitting itself, or each other. None of you is sure what to make of it. But they're managing to at least convincingly wrestle each other, or themselves? Oh, who the hells knows? Before you know it, or have time to react, they're stumbling towards the lot of you in a fit of self-inflicted rage and blindly trip over a dead stump, crashing into a large tree. Toppling it in your direction, its huge shadow hovers over all of you for a moment. This can't end well. Everyone roll a dexterity saving throw.
Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Dungeons & Dragons and the lore that surrounds them. Hey Giants, I'm Encounter This co-host James Laurie Kidd, and today Freeman Nori Iceton will be taking us through the lore and mechanics of the Ettin found in the Wizards of the Coast Monster Manual on page 132. Take us there, Nori.
Well, Laurie, to start off, I will just, quick disclaimer, say that I'm not feeling all that great. I don't think my voice is too far off, but I'm just going to try to avoid any coughing or sniffling. Hopefully I can edit it all out. But we all know what the best medicine for not feeling well is. Our sponsor, Strange Fellows.
That was a quick sponsor plug. You gotta pay a premium for that normally.
Strange Fellows Blackmail Milk Stout. The cure for what ails you.
Fuck, that's good. I haven't had like a Blackmail Stout in almost 2 weeks since I've been off beer. But god damn, is that good.
It's a tasty beverage. And I guess second disclaimer is, no, we are still not technically sponsored by Strange Fellows.
Yeah, I don't know what their problem is.
Well, mostly they don't know about us yet.
Yeah,
so
we haven't reached out to them or anything.
Not really their problem, more our problem, I suppose.
I guess. Maybe they're on Twitter. Let's see what happens.
We're on Twitter.
We are on Twitter.
We are on Twitter.
At Encounter Pod.
Imagine that.
Get all that shit out of the way first. God, this went off the rails real quick. Talk to me about Ettins.
Ettins, right. Oh, yeah, okay. So let's stay on topic, shall we? So one thing's for sure is reading about Ettins, there wasn't as much as I thought there was going to be in the real-life lore, but also researching Ettins has made me excited for some of the future things we're going to be discussing. Particularly giants, I think, being the obvious one. Oddly enough, there is a very light connection there to some Slotty as well.
Really?
And I think there's going to be some light touches on goblins. Just some of the vague connections that these creatures seem to have made me want to explore more of those other options.
So these guys are really interconnected.
Kind of, yeah. And I will say right at the gate, it's almost entirely on an etymological level.
Okay. You got me on the hook for Slotty, though.
Yeah. It's a very small one, but I think you'll like
fine.
it.
I'll take anything I can get. Frog people, weird and love them.
Absolutely. So the first thing I'll mention is that the word Ettin in the 5e lore is actually from an ancient common dialect, and it means ugly giant. And in the TSR book Giantcraft, that was published in 1995, it said that the giant language itself was called Jotun, Jotun, and that Ettin in that language means runt. And what I really love about this fact right out of the gate is that it seems to imply that Ettin was used in both languages, meaning that giant and common in an ancient period would have had sort of a sister or root language, or they would have had a relationship.
See, my mind immediately went to Jotunheim from the real world,
the Norse mythology, which we will certainly get into.
Okay, cool, great, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but as far as the origin of actual Ettins, there's a legend that goes. It basically says that Lorks, GCP.
Shout out to Lork.
GCP, anyone?
And shout out to Lelf.
Yeah. Orcs had stumbled onto a temple that was dedicated to Demogorgon, and they were transformed into mockeries of the twin-headed Prince of Demons. This drove them to madness, and they were scattered across the wilderness and became the first Ettins.
So Ettins are, like, fucked up orcs.
Basically. That's, again, it's a legend. It's not like, especially when we did Harpies, where it's a very set in stone thing.
We've determined that. I mean, I'm taking that. That's going into my world. That's cool. That's so easy. Good. So good.
Are you familiar with Demogorgon at all?
I am a little bit. I'm not as familiar as I'd like to be.
I think it's
obviously
much more
Stranger Things references.
Yeah, it's pretty much a household name that no one knows anything about at this point. I'm not really going to dive into it because it's a whole different ball game. But Demogorgon is the Prince of Demons. He's a very powerful demon lord and lesser deity.
One of the Princes of Demons.
Well, his title is the Prince of Demons.
Oh, okay.
And what I will touch on is that it is a title you have to claim. No one has been able to beat him or take him down. He's powerful enough to claim that title from him.
Really? Even Baphomet?
Yeah. Well, so I don't know much about the hierarchy, but he is a lesser deity. He is a demon lord, but the title he holds specifically has to be taken from him through force.
Okay.
I don't know where he falls on the tier in the hierarchy of these.
So the hierarchy is the demon lords, but his specific title in the demon lords is the Prince of Demons.
The Prince of Demons, yeah.
Cool.
100%. He's known for having two baleful baboon heads with blue and red faces similar to mandrills.
Yeah, he's on the cover of Out of the Abyss. So if any of our listeners have a copy of that or have seen a copy of that, his stats are also in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, if you guys are looking for a deeper dive on the Demogorgon.
There's lots of other physical attributes to him, too. He's really, really crazy. But realistically, almost nothing about him relates to Ettins other than this legend and the two heads.
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm plugging other people's work. Just wait for our episode on Demogorgons, listeners.
Exactly. So from there, we've got orcs being their closest kin, I guess. And orcs actually treat Ettins as if they are distant cousins. They basically will promise them loot and food and employ them as guards, scouts, or marauders, that sort of thing. But Ettins aren't really loyal in any way. So if these promises aren't met, they will just jump ship.
Okay.
They're not interested. From there, we've got basically the physical attributes. They do crudely resemble orcs. They stink to the high heavens because they never bathe if they can help it. And that is specifically said in the book, if they can help it, which makes me think, what scenario is going to get an Ettin to want to bathe?
I'd imagine like a river crossing.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Or the rain.
They do their damnedest to avoid it because their breath and their body reek. They have crooked teeth and tusks, and they always have a thick layer of grime that usually coats their entire body.
That's gross.
Yeah, their hair is long and stringy and dirty, and if you look at the art in the monster manual, they're barely wearing anything. You just get like a ratty loincloth on. And their twin heads are always the same gender.
That makes sense.
So each head, here's the personality-wise, They are quite interesting. Each head has an individual personality that are trapped in the same body. They have their own name, preferences, and quirks. And they're basically never alone. They never experience solitude or privacy of any kind. And this breeds contempt between the two heads. They bully each other constantly arguing. They're constantly taking offense from the other one's remarks. So they're really just pissy and angry and annoyed at each other all the time.
And is this a multi-headed trait unique to Ettins that you found?
I found very little evidence of multi-headed anything, which is the strange part of the research.
In a Hydra, they have individual personalities as well, I believe.
In what, sorry?
In a Hydra?
Oh, Hydra. Oh, I did not.
But I don't think they become. I don't think there's a high enough intelligence there for it to become.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking. Yeah, it didn't occur to me that they would have personalities. I just figured they were more mindless beasts.
Yeah, I think the heads on a Hydra have preferences, but that I may honestly be getting this confused with Hiram McDaniels from Welcome to Night Vale.
Sure.
But yeah, there's I don't want to say a deep cut for podcast listeners, but there's a cut for podcast listeners.
Enjoy. The heads always have their own name, but the name usually ends up being combined together to make the name that other creatures will call the Ettin. So, for example, the example they give in the Monster Manual is Hargle and Vargle. They will just be called Hargle Vargle. Okay. There are a couple other famous Ettins that I found through the lore, mostly sifting through the Forgotten Realms wiki. There was Boknokken and Krongjung. They had worked for the Xanathar Guild in the dungeon level of Undermountain, which makes me excited to explore some of that.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
There's definitely some spoilers here, 100%. There's Jibber Jabber, who lived in the Twisted Caverns in the Undermountain, and he was friends with a famous NPC known as the Alchemist. Have you ever heard of the Alchemist?
I don't think so.
Well, this is definitely a spoiler. The Alchemist is secretly a green slotty, and who has lost his control gem. It's been taken away from him, and he is seeking it out. And he befriends this Jibber Jabber. I believe he gives him a recipe for making booze out of mushrooms.
That's fantastic.
And they become friends.
The control gem is a variant rule in Slatties, just so we're clear on that.
And my favorite name of a somewhat famous Ettin is Oinker Boinker, who managed the pig pen at Chief Guh, the hill giant leader, in her steading.
I think if we're going to keep this a friendly podcast, we need to end that right there before we go into detail about how that name came about.
What, Chief Guh?
Oinker Boinker.
Oh. Either one, I guess. Yeah, Oinker Boinker it's a good one.
It's very visceral.
Indeed.
Really throws a picture up.
And of course, I ended up doing a little research on Chief Guh, the hill giant leader, and which makes me excited to go into giants, of course, eventually. But I'll just touch on it briefly. She was a leader after the shattering of the Ordning. I don't know much about that. I know the Ordning's the hierarchy of the giants.
Yeah, that happened.
I don't know much about the shattering, though.
The shattering happened just before Storm Tyrant's Thunder, Storm Tyrant's Grasp. The Storm Tyrant Adventure Path is what I'm trying to say. There used to be this really neat hierarchy, kind of democratic council of giants before it got broken.
Well, Chief Guh, being a hill giant, was far less intelligent than the rest, and her plan was to rule over all giant kind, and she thought the best way to do it was becoming larger than every other giant. And her method of doing so was to eat constantly until she got big enough to be bigger than everyone else.
Crazy.
So she's apparently massive. Just this big fat blob of a hill giant that has enslaved the other hill giants, and it just is trying to get bigger and fatter.
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on it in the Hellhounds episode, but one of the reasons that Hellhounds are bound to fire giants is because after the shattering of the Ord, one of the fire giant rulers, Duke something or other from Storm King's Thunder, has a couple of pet Hellhounds.
Okay.
I wish I could find his name, but my internet's out, listeners, so use your imagination.
Just let it run wild. Yeah. So from there, basically, Ettins will resolve their differences to achieve a mutual goal or face a common threat. And they do control each arm and attack in tandem, which we'll probably get into a little bit more in the mechanics section.
Attack in tandem? In
tandem, it specifically says. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that automatically negates multi-attack, but we'll see.
We'll see. Only one head sleeps at a time while the other one keeps a lookout. And this is the only time they get any amount of privacy. And these moments are precious to both of the heads, and they do not like to be disturbed. So it's probably a really bad time to come up on an Ettin when one of them's asleep.
So before we go into anything else, I just want to praise you on your exposition that you wrote for this episode. I'll right off the bat, because you've hit just about every point in that.
I really
D&D
tried
lore.
to.
You did an amazing job, and it
Thank
really,
you.
now that we've gone through it, it really comes through. So I would encourage listeners to go back and re-listen to it, and then see where it all is really put in there.
I'm not gonna lie. Like the first time I read the Ettins section of the Monster Manual, they surprised me. I enjoyed them way more than I thought. I thought they were just very unique, and I just had so many ideas running through my head of the differing personalities and the arguing, and just all these little tiny little things just stood out to me, and I just created a whole scenario in my head. I've been sitting on not that exposition for a long time, but an idea surrounding it for a long time. But we'll touch on that near the end as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
The other section that's in the Monster Manual discusses their solitary lives.
It's solitary with air quotes.
Solitary with air quotes. Well, here's the thing, is as much as they don't experience solitude from each other, or the two heads that is, they tolerate other Ettins even less than they tolerate each other. So Ettins never really meet up at all. They don't hang out. In fact, it says that if two Ettins get together, it literally just means four belligerent heads arguing very loudly, and they can't get anything done. The only time they get together is to reproduce, and the only time that happens is when the female decides to initiate the mating rituals. They are the dominant gender of this particular creature. They will initiate the mating ritual by finding a suitable den, and then they conquer a male. And she mates with him, and then essentially enslaves him for the 6-month pregnancy period, for which he goes out and finds her food. Well, she just chills. And
Should we put a trigger warning in there?
I mean, it's a fantasy creature. I think we're okay.
It is a fantasy creature.
I hope people have an idea what they get into when they listen to this.
Yeah,
by now.
We're literally talking about rape and slavery at this point.
Yep, pretty much.
That makes me uncomfortable, but yeah.
Wait till you hear the ideas I have for the homebrew.
We'll put a trigger warning in there.
Trigger warning, sure. Yeah. Let's just do it. It's better safe than not, eh? The male Ettin will be released from this servitude as soon as the child is born, and as soon as the child can hunt, it's sent away, and then the female abandons the den.
Okay.
They just do not spend any more time than they have to with each other.
So
whether
it's
a mate,
insectoid.
child. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Almost what, sorry?
Insectoid. A lot of ants and spiders do this kind of thing, where they enslave the male, and then they either feed the male to the hatching eggs, or they let them go after the birth. It's interesting. There's some real world analogs for this, just nothing in the mammalian kingdom that I can think of.
Right. That's basically it for the 5e lore.
That's a fucking lot.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
They're a one-page creature, right?
Yeah, one-page creature, yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm going to get some of that from the wiki as well, of course. Now, when it comes to the real-life lore, the real-world lore, there isn't a whole lot there. In fact, Wikipedia doesn't even have an Ettin page. It immediately diverts you to Bogle.
So, just to touch on that, are Ettins are they one of the D&D registered creatures, like the Umber Hulk and the Beholder?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Write in if you know.
But there is some obvious etymological references.
They're not. There's an Ettin in Pathfinder.
Is there?
Yep. Okay. They definitely encounter one in the GCP, and I have an Ettin pawn. I'm going through it in my head right now.
Thank you for burping that out.
Yeah. Blackmail.
So there's no Ettin page on Wikipedia. It diverts you to Bogle, also spelled Bogle. It's also spelled Boggle or Bogil, Bogil. It basically covers a variety of.
I'd pronounce that Boggle. I think.
Bogle.
I mean, the board game is pronounced Boggle, and it's spelled Boggle.
Yeah. Well, there's options for both.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I would pronounce that Boggle.
All right, we're going with Bogle.
I just don't see where the O would get the hard sound from.
O's have a hard sound?
Soft O and a hard O.
So Boggles, the Boggle section covers a variety of ghosts and folkloric creatures, including Shellycoats, which were Scottish and Northern English boogeymen, which, by the way, in the UK, they called them bogeymen.
See, that's where it gets the hard O, because the E is next to the G in this one.
Sure, whatever you say. It's a bugla.
Yep.
Yeah. Shellycoats. We also have Barguests, which I know you're going to be covering eventually down the road. I believe you are anyway.
Yeah. Barguests are a tough one because they're really tied heavily into Goblin lore in 5e. Mm-hmm. So I think that might just be a split.
We also have Brags. Have you heard of Brags?
I've heard a little bit of Brags. I think there's an old legend, either that or I'm making this up, about a brag who would infiltrate a card game. And the card game is really similar to 3-card Monty, but it's actually a 3-card poker game called Brag.
Okay. Well, I did a little bit of research on them. They're basically shape-shifting goblins from Northumbrian folklore. And there's a good little story on the wiki. It's worth a read if you want to take the time. But I imagine that's something we'll get into when we're talking about goblins. And also the Headley cow. Cow spelled with a K. And it's another shape-shifting creature that seems to be somewhat related to the Brag. But it's a horse or a cow of some kind that shapeshifts. If I recall correctly, the little excerpt that you can find in the Headley cow section on the wiki is like the most boring story. And it's strange.
You're going to read it verbatim then?
No, I don't have it here. But I remember reading it and being like, this is a really strange folklore tale or creature to have. This doesn't really seem to do anything. But anyway, boggles or bogles are related to boggarts, which covers bogies and bogeymen, and even covers bugbears, which again will be something we discuss in a later episode. This is where my excitement for like goblins came in, because I didn't really do too much exploring, but I really, really wanted to. However, all this talk and pronunciation, the connection here is that bogles or boggles also include giants that were once known to inhabit Cobb's Causey, or Devil's Causeway, which was an old Roman road, I believe, in northern England. But I found nothing about the giants at all related to Cobb's Causey, other than that they were called Ettins, specifically.
Awesome.
Yeah, so here's my first moment of finding Ettins. So related to all of these other folkloric creatures, here we have this brief mention of giants on an old Roman road in England, and these giants are called Ettins. They're called Ettins and spelled in various ways. Ettins, which we have in the book, Yetuns, Yotuns, Yttins, Ytenes. It's all over the place. And it's just like different parts, like Northumberland or South and Southwest England.
Is Southwest England Wales?
I don't know.
If you're good at geography...
I am not.
Can you explain where Wales is in England? Let's just cut that whole bit right there.
Cut that right out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's Wales because of the Yttins.
I've no doubt a lot of these spellings are coming from like these older dialects from a less divided England.
Yeah, I love Welsh people, but your language is fucking crazy. Like, it's crazy in all the best ways, but God, is it nonsense?
So everywhere.
It's so many consonants.
Quick mention, and speak of the beer in fear of being sued yet again, we do have to talk about Tolkien real quick.
I think if we got away with Treants, we're going to get away with a brief dash into Ettins here.
Yeah, this will be real quick.
All right.
Basically, there is a place called the Ettin Moors that's north of Rivendell in the Tolkien universe. Ettin, in this case, is known to have been influenced by the Old English word Eoten, E-O-T-E-N. That was what Tolkien himself had said he had gotten the name from.
And hands down, probably just an English bastardization of Jotun.
Exactly. The Ettin Moors were also called the Trollfells, and the region was likely infested with trolls, but it's never really definitively described as such. But Gandalf himself did allude to the existence of two-headed trolls. He has a line that says, "I'm afraid trolls do behave like that, even those with one head each." And it's speculated that two-headed trolls would have lived in this Trollfell or these Ettin Moors. This is the only thing I found that seems to specifically call something an Ettin and reference that it has two heads at the same time.
Yeah, I think Tolkien's probably just playing with the English language here and going from Jotun to Ettin real quick. Mm-hmm. But that's a pretty easy shift to see, especially considering he would have been English, so he would have been aware of the Ettin, probably from Northumberland.
Yeah.
And I believe Ettin Moor just means like giant lake is how that etymology seems.
Something along those lines, yeah. And then from there, I think the etymology is clearly taking us right to where you wanted to go, or you had mentioned earlier, the Jotuns from Norse mythology.
Yeah, get into this.
Actually, Jotnar is the plural. I found no crazy connection really between Ettin and the Northumbrian lore. It mostly seems to be an etymological thing. In Norse mythology, Jotuns are ambiguously defined. The term giant is sometimes sort of used instead of it, and they're also called Risi, Thurs, and trolls. And they basically can trace their existence back to the proto-being Ymir, whose body was basically stripped apart by Odin and his brothers to create the world. And Ymir had a couple of titles or nicknames, one of them being Twin, another one being Hermaphrodite, and another one Screamer. I didn't find anything about him that implied he had two heads or anything, but there was this obvious connection in these names and titles.
Yeah, hermaphrodite would have probably at that time been an English bastardization of a Greek word for dual.
Yeah, sure, fair enough. Yeah.
I'm very, very loosely basing this off some information that I've gotten somewhere else, but I believe that this term would have come from Hermes, the god Hermes, who carries the two-headed snake scepter, the cestus. But this is information that I've read from Alan Alfred's Gods of the New Millennium way, way back, which I can't cite as a credible source at all, and things that I may be misremembering from Sidney McElroy on Sawbones. But I think that's where that term would have come from. Screamer's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I've really thought of that is that their Ettins and the 5e lore are constantly yelling at each other. So, but that's a bit of a stretch, I think, at the end of the day. I don't imagine anyone at Wizards of the Coast thought, oh, Ymir was called a screamer, let's make them scream. I don't see it happening.
And that's got to be an English translation that it's probably
Definitely.
a word that we've lost somewhere, or a definition that we've lost somewhere, because it doesn't seem to fit in the information you have here.
I don't doubt that at all. As far as physical descriptions go, they are ambiguously defined. They're not always necessarily large, and like some deities would describe them from anywhere from being exceedingly beautiful to alarmingly grotesque.
Exceedingly beautiful. Okay, interesting.
And I was researching Jotun, and I found just a small etymological connection. Jotun with a J and double N, and then Eotun, starting with an E. And both of these words were developed from a Proto-Germanic word called Ettunaz, E-T-U-N-A-Z. The E-O-T-U-N is the one that's most closely related to the Tolkien reference, the Tolkien inspiration. Basically, from the ground up, Jotun, I immediately thought was going to be the primary influence, and it seems to be the most vague one at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the origin for the Wizards of the Coast, Ettin, is mostly inspired by the light references that Tolkien and Gandalf make, which are then in turn inspired by the etymology surrounding local English folklore and Norse mythology and their relation to that.
Yeah, it definitely has to be. I mean, Tolkien was an Englishman. He had a lot of time to think and write during the Second World War. I believe it was the Second World War.
One of them wars.
One of the world wars.
There's always a war.
And Northumberland keeps coming up to these references, so I wonder if he's actually from that area.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But to be fair, most of the references were to do with the Boggles and Barghest and Goblins, which just happened to be listed under the same category as Ettins.
Right.
So it could just be a little bit more coincidence than anything.
And we're fairly confident Tolkien wasn't skimming Wikipedia while he was writing.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the differences go, I think there's the obvious etymological connections. There's a vague theme of troublesome creatures, sometimes large, sometimes not, though. Apparently, sometimes beautiful, but certainly, ugly creatures.
I wonder if there's a two-headed small creature that's beautiful that's reflected in the D&D lore. This was just kind of left out.
None that I know of. One thing I thought was a bit strange is that there seems to be a mixture of a reference between giants and trolls. In fact, what I found in general, which again makes me excited to research giants and now, of course, trolls, is that historically there doesn't seem to be much difference between the two as far as mythologies goes. They seem to be interchangeable words a lot of the time, probably from mistranslation, I would imagine, but from what I could find as solid evidence, which is to say not very solid at all, Ettins seem to lean more towards a troll-like creature in the real-world lore rather than a giant one. And even in the 5e lore, they seem to be more akin to orcs than actual giants, despite having the giant subtype.
Yeah, I wonder where that line was drawn. Do you know what their subtype was in previous editions?
I do, actually. They were giant the whole way through, with the exception of 4th edition where they were humanoid.
Yeah, the 4th edition was wacky.
They just flipped everything on its head.
They really did. I think they did a great job going through some of those manuals and the player's handbook. There's some cool stuff in there, but they really took a hard right turn from 3.5, which is fine. It's a fun system. I encourage you to check it out. You can get the books pretty cheaply. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of these monster classifications. Humanoid, I understand, but you're right. I would think that this would be an orc subtype.
Yeah, you would think. But again, maybe it's just because as legend goes, they used to be orcs. Maybe there's really no relation there at all. They do have the similarities physically, particularly in the faces when you look at the artwork. They do have those trademark tusks and sort of the similar shape to their nose and stuff, but maybe a little more elongated and scraggly looking. But
yeah, because when I think of like slower, more genetically diluted giants, I think of ogres.
Right.
So I wonder where the Ettin place is in that, and I'm excited to hear what you have for that.
And I could tell you that I'm pretty sure Ettins aren't listed anywhere on the ordning. Hill giants are at the lowest end of that. So Ettins don't really seem to mark anyone's radar for any particular reason.
Okay, so they kind of float with ogres and that.
Yeah.
And it
like
seems
Cyclops or something like that.
Yeah, and it seems like ogres even kind of fall more into that goblinoid category these days with the ogre in Morton Canaan's Tome of Foes, who has the goblin backpack where the goblins shoot arrows from his back.
Yeah, what's that thing called? I was looking at that up the other day. Howdah. 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 It's in Morton Canaan's Tome of Foes, the ogre Howdah.
Awesome. Ogres are going to be a fun one, I think.
Agreed. From there, we're definitely moving to mechanics, especially speaking of Howdahs.
Yeah, so talk to me about how these things work in game. If you want to add an Ettin to your game, what are you going to be looking at?
So we're looking at CR4 creature, 21 strength. It's quite high, understandably.
Yeah.
17 con, those would be the top stats. It's only got an AC of 12, just natural armor. It doesn't wear anything, right? It's just wearing that suit of grime all over its body.
Yeah, so it's got to have a pretty low dex then.
Yeah. Basic HP is 85 or 10d10 plus 30, which has a pretty high potential. And they do have a speed of 40, probably because they're just so large and lumbering.
Right. And are they a large creature?
They are a large creature, giant subtype. In second edition, they were huge, though. I could be wrong about this. I know first edition, they didn't really have the same amount of size categories we have now. I don't know about second edition. But they were listed as huge, at the very least.
Yeah, if you're a second edition player, write in and let us know the difference between huge and giant, if it's the same as it is today, or if it was a different step out.
Their alignment is chaotic evil, and they spoke giant and orc. Now, this was curious. The Forgotten Realms wiki mentioned that they spoke a pidgin language of giant, and they referenced the monster manual for this, but there's nothing in the book about it.
Do they reference this particular monster manual?
This particular one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
It listed the page and everything, and there's nothing on there about a pidgin language. In fact, I searched the PDF for the word pidgin, Pidgin, and there's nothing in the book about it at all.
Gotcha. Do you want to touch on pidgin languages a bit?
Oh, you've known more in the past, that's for sure. I know pidgin languages are just, are they not strange dialects that combine multiple languages? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So they're broken languages, essentially broken into a couple of different pieces. And, you use a little bit of orc, you use a little bit of common, you use a little bit of giants.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's some dialects of Quebec French specifically that could count as pidgin languages, and I know I just offended somebody.
Okay, Northern New Brunswick too, man. Acadian French is probably...
Yeah, exactly, Acadian French.
A lot of Fringlish happening.
Yeah, exactly. Fringlish would be a pidgin language.
Yeah. Now, this does make me want to go back and note what I started with, and it's that the word Ettin was an ancient common dialect word, and also a giant word. So it kind of almost makes sense these guys might speak, especially they don't mingle too much. They don't socialize a whole lot. They probably would have some strange pidgin of another language that they communicate with, and probably barely communicate with other Ettins with, or even orcs.
Yeah. So they know orc in 5th edition?
Yes, orc and giant.
But not common.
Not common.
See, it brings me back. I don't think they should be of the giant subtype.
Right?
Like I'm not feeling it. It seems to be a little muddy here.
I think I'm leaning towards agreeing with you. It probably makes more sense for them to be a humanoid with an orcish subtype.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot how subtypes work for a second.
Well, I think we do keep calling it the giant subtype, but it's technically that's their type.
Yeah, they're a giant type. The subtype would be orc, I guess.
Keep saying subtype, yeah. Senses, they do have dark vision. They have a high perception +4 to it, and 14 passive perception.
That's an orc trait.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're orcs.
These guys are orcs. We're homebrewing it. They're not giants anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah. It really is, because when you think about spells in particular that affect certain types of creatures, such as Hold Person.
Hold Person, yeah.
Hold Person, we've talked about this at the table before.
Devil is in the details of that one.
Yeah, it has to affect a humanoid. It would not affect this creature because it is the giant type and not a humanoid type. I'm not saying a Hold Person should affect an Ettin, but there is a huge difference between those types when it comes to the nitty-gritty details and rules, especially when it comes to spellcasting.
Yeah, and specifically Hold Person, for example, is a 2nd level spell, whereas Hold Monster, the one that you would need to hold an Ettin, is a 5th level spell. What are you doing battling a fucking Ettin if you've got 5th level spells at your disposal? Just walk around it. That thing's not even a threat at that point.
I mean, you could have multiple Ettins there as fighting a big band of them with orcs or something. But
you couldn't. According to the lore, you really couldn't.
Well, no, if they're you're probably not wrong. you could wiggle it in there somehow with them being employed by orcs, having multiple Ettins employed by orcs. Maybe they don't spend too much time next to each other, but they are still working with them.
Maybe they're pets of a giant band or something. But yeah, it's all screaming orc to me. The dark vision, the tusks,
the origin story.
The origin story. Like, I like that it's a rumor. It's not cemented into law in 5th edition. Because we're probably talking about Forgotten Realms specifically.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I kind of always forget that the Monster Manual, Vola's Guide to Monsters, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they're all kind of specifically referencing the Forgotten Realms setting as well.
Right.
So that's something I need to do a better job of taking into account when we're looking at these things and talking about homebrews and stuff like that, because you could just be playing on a different continent of Toril, have the same monsters, but have different traits, kind of like Alolan Pokemon. Not a great example, but an example nonetheless.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, in our defense, though, the 5th edition hasn't really released a lot of official content on any of the other settings. They're all still loosely there, and there's a lot of people homebrewing them and creating them and adopting them. But I think we're getting our literal first book for Eberron, official book with the Artificer in November.
We got Ravnica earlier this year.
Oh, we did get Ravnica, yeah. Okay. But we don't have Mystara, we don't have Greyhawk. We have lots of references to them, but we don't have official...
Planescape!
Where's my Starjammer?
Yeah, give me some Starjammer for 5th edition. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So a lot of these things, I guess, we'll just have to assume that they reference Forgotten Realms, Sword Coast probably specifically. Yeah. The
beauty of 5th edition is that it's so easily homebrewed to fit your view of these creatures and these worlds.
Absolutely.
While still keeping it balanced. So if you guys want to be with us, switch that type over to Orc, just do it. What have you got to lose?
Almost nothing, actually. Like, you don't even technically have to keep it consistent from one region to another. Maybe one region they're closer to that orcish origin, whereas another region they fall into the giant subtype because they're closer to the giant origin. Like,
maybe they're the result of some weird-ass giant orc inbreeding or crossbreeding.
I think I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. Maybe it's 2 teleportation circles, and you rolled a 1, and you get some sort of, like, Jeff Goldblum in The Fly.
It'd be amazing.
Between an orc and a hill giant, that's how you get an Ettin.
From there, though, we've got no resistances, immunities, or vulnerabilities. Traits, though, the 2 heads being the obvious one. They have advantage on perception checks, as well as saving throws versus blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, and knocked unconscious.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think those are really, really great traits and mechanics to throw into this creature.
Absolutely. You've got 2 heads to contend with. It really does change the dynamic of the fight. I
think blinded should not be on this list, I think. Because you can blind one head and not blind the other, and blinded is essentially just disadvantage on perception checks to begin with.
Well, that was sort of the thing I was going to say next, actually, too. When it comes to blinded, deafened, and maybe even frightened and knocked unconscious, those ones I would homebrew in a way that you could do it to one of the heads but not the other. One of them could save, maybe rolling separate saving throws. Maybe instead of giving them advantage, rolling separate saving throws for those particular ones.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I would include deafened in there, just because there's a small amount of room between the 2 heads. I think it would hurt both of them a lot. But yeah, I really like the idea of rolling separate saving throws for frightened and blinded. So essentially just giving them, advantage.
Kind of like giving them definitely. We've gone down this road before. Where we're just making it too complicated for ourselves.
Come full circle. Thank you for doing the legwork, wizards.
Seriously.
Oh my god, we just talked ourselves into the rules as written.
Oh, sweet lord. Which brings us to the next part you're probably not going to like. They have multi-attack.
I like it. I do really like it.
What I don't have written in my notes here, but it is in the monster manual, is that it specifies they make 2 attacks, one with their battle axe, one with their Morning Star. Those are the 2 weapons they have. That's all they have for attacking. Now, of course, you don't have to have them wielding a battle axe and a Morning Star, but I think it's just meant to imply that each attack has to come from one hand and then the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can't come from the same hand. That's where the attacking in tandem comes from.
Yeah, I agree, and I like that a lot. I think multi-attack makes sense mechanically. Mm-hmm. I personally just won't think about it as 1 and then 2. It's 2.
Right, you're talking at the exact same time.
I might even give them advantage on those attacks too, because if you're dropping 2 arms, I'm going to make this so much more complicated than it needs to be. So in tandem, what it means to me is that you're dropping those 2 arms, you're hitting with that Morning Star, and you're hitting with that Battle Axe simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So I would probably give the players a reflex save, holy shit. I would probably give the players a dex save for half, and then I would roll mine to hits after that. Because if you're within 5 feet of this large creature, and it just swings 2, you've only got the opportunity to move back or side to side. Otherwise, you're going to get hit by both of them. You're being essentially caged in.
I see what you're saying, but when I think of in tandem, I don't necessarily think that simultaneously the actions have to be locked in. I imagine it's more of an act of coordination.
Just like practice repetition?
Yeah, basically. Just imagine their everyday life where they both have control over one arm. They would be rough going when they're first born and growing up, trying to figure out how to coordinate, but eventually it would become second nature for them to operate with the movements of the other side and know exactly what they need to do next. Even just foraging for food or building some sort of structure, they would find a way to figure that out, and it would become second nature, and it would be muscle memory. So the tandem to me sort of just is referencing more that cooperation and coordination that they're so used to. I don't think it has to be simultaneous. Okay. It's just going to be with each other, using each other's momentum or balance or whatever.
All right, you've talked me into it.
Sweet.
And it specifically says a Morning Star, not a Morning Star flail, so I can get behind that.
James hates flails.
I hate Morning Star flails. I mean, I do. Flails are ridiculous. They're a dumb weapon. Flails are a dumb weapon. I specifically hate Morning Star flails because they make sense, but they also kind of take away, because you're not going to get as much let's move past this. I'm getting angry. I can feel my blood boiling just thinking about somebody.
We have to do a second show of some kind where you just get to sit there and discuss weapons at your leisure.
Just get mad about weapons. Check out any episode of Shadiversity on YouTube, and then
seriously,
and follow that guy down the rabbit hole. He's a real expert. He's a real expert with air quotes, because I don't think he's actually an expert. But talk to me about using them. Have you ever used them in combat? Hey there, creatures. James from the future coming at you. Just wanted to punch in and give you a trigger warning for some of the stuff that's coming up in the Ettins homebrew. It gets a little bit dark, and if you want to miss that, just go right ahead and skip to the 47-minute mark, and you should be nice and clear.
So, no, I've never used them. As I was saying, the intro exposition that I wrote is heavily inspired by a homebrew idea that I had. I instantly fell in love with the fact that the Ettins would constantly fight each other. I loved that females indentured them and basically enslaved them during their pregnancy. And then my brain went straight to this idea that one of the heads was madly in love with her and the other one couldn't stand her. And it just, to me, just was role-playing beauty and just flavor. I couldn't wait. And I did wait up until now to actually explore it, but I always had that in the back of my head. And I had this idea, whether it was a one-shot or a stepping stone spot, probably a bit of a MacGuffin scenario, where the players need to get into this den that the impregnated female is in. There's something they need inside. And they, of course, come across the male Ettin foraging out for food, or, like in the intro, one of them's asleep, the other one's eager to get going because he's, madly in love with her. And they have to go through this male Ettin to get to her, to this den, and then through her to get the item. And whether that through is, convincing them to guide them along, helping them out in something they're struggling with, or actual straight up combat. I wanted to leave that sort of option open, but my brain really went like dark places with this as well. I thought to myself, what if this female was like 5.5 months in pregnant? She's as pregnant as they come. She's big belly on her, probably can't move very well, and she's in this den, probably really angry. What if one of her heads isn't alive anymore? It doesn't discuss anything about what happens when one head goes down. Does the whole creature die? It's like, what if there's still like a rotting head limp to the side that's causing her a lot of agony? She's 5.5 months pregnant with a Ettin child, and she's crabby as all hell. How can the players deal with the situation? I even went as far, and this is gruesome, but I even went as far as having the idea of shopping her, aborting herself to take out these PCs in a really grotesque way, because there is a lot of implication that they prioritize themselves over other Ettins, and they only meet to reproduce. It gives them a really bestial, we just do this because we're supposed to kind of thing. And I imagine her wanting to live so that she can go on to reproduce again. That's basically her goal, and that's it. So if I sacrifice this one, I can move on to the next one. Real cold, unintelligent creatures. So it was a real horror scenario that I was building in my brain. And it actually made it really fun to write that intro exposition as well, because I thought, how goofy and fun can you make this, only to have it turn to a really, really dark place.
Yeah, that's definitely a dark place, and that's a real quick turn.
It's not for everyone.
No.
Not for every DM. It's certainly not for every player, and that's something I very much would love to shop in the future and in more detail. But I would certainly make sure the players at my table were ready for something like that.
Yeah, there's I want to call it an RPG trigger warning thing that's out.
Oh yeah,
it's been floating around social media. It's been around for a while, but I've seen it popping up more and more lately, and it's great. That's the kind of thing I would employ this for specifically. It's I'm just pulling it up for Freeman right now, so we can cut this. But it's a consent form essentially. So it talks about mental and physical health. It talks about horror. It talks about relationships, cultural and social issues, where this would probably fall under. And it just has different checkboxes, and you mark them whether or not you're okay with them being included. And I think this would be...
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's really great. And I think this would be a great time to introduce this into a game if you're going to create this kind of game.
100%. That's really, really great.
Yeah.
This also makes me think of... it wasn't all that long ago that Paizo released Starfinder, and I believe one of their adventure paths is a horror theme. And at the start of the book, it has a pretty big warning, if I recall correctly, saying this is very gruesome and it's not for every player.
It's probably the Signal of Silence?
Signal of Screams.
Signal of Screams.
I believe that's the one, yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to play that one, but I haven't seen that warning, so maybe I don't want to play that one.
I recall reading it somewhere that it's not for the faint of heart, and it could be triggering for some people.
Oh, wow.
It's very gory, very bloody, very dark.
Yeah, gore I'm fine with. It's I'm the older I get, the harder time I'm having as a male in our society writing things like female parts, and specifically like that kind of thing, like childbirth and abortion, and like that stuff just makes me so uncomfortable because it's so outside of my wheelhouse that I don't want to presume that I know anything about it.
Right. That's fair.
I like the idea of following down the road, but if I were to write that thing, I would have to write it with a female and have their perspective, sure. That kind of thing. And I know that this is just a game, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't want to do the gender justice, especially on topics that are as sensitive as something like this.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so that's the personal disclaimer out of the way.
Any experiences yourself with Ettins or thoughts on homebrewing them?
So I think the audience already knows where I'm going to take the homebrew. Obviously, I'm going to scrap that giant, and I'm going to keep that legend with them being descendants of orcs or bastardizations of the orcish race. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to set that in stone, but I think that's going to be a common legend that floats through the world. I like the idea of legends and myths floating around the world. I think it adds a depth. I have used an Ettin in combat before. I really feel like Ettin should be plural.
Use Ettins? Always Ettins?
Yeah, I understand why it's singular, but whenever I say it, I feel like Ettins is a more accurate word.
It'd be hard to always throw that into a sentence and have it make sense.
It works for deer.
When we just assume Ettin is both plural and singular at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
Without the S.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like every Pokemon. Look at all those Bulbasaur.
Yeah, that's true. Bulbasaur.
We reference Pokemon a lot.
I play a lot of Pokemon. It makes sense. We're also in our early 30s, so we were fucking prime for red and blue.
Prime.
Just
I'm still prime. I'm still prime for it.
Yet he hasn't played Let's Go, listeners. Harass him.
Don't
harass him for it. So I have used an Ettin in our previous campaign that took place on the Sword Coast, and they were used as similar to a troll. They were guarding a bridge, and they were just more of a plug-and-play encounter. They weren't anything that I'd really fully fleshed out. I just needed something in the CR4 range to take on the PCs. And the PCs just fucking demolished it. Just walked through this thing. I think I got one of the 4 attacks off, like 2 rounds. They were it was a party of 4 level 4s, and they just walked through this thing like you wouldn't believe.
Well, it doesn't have much going for it. At level 4, how many spells do you have that are going to charm, sleep, stun, knock unconscious, deafen, blind? And how many players are going to have those things? It seems to me that the greatest power the Ettin has is its defensive nature in its 2 heads. But by that time, the players don't have that many things to play with, I don't think.
They've got enough.
Or, especially if you're playing with new players, not all of them take those utility spells. They kind of always want the ones that are just going to deal some damage.
Yeah, right? Everybody wants to hurt.
Yeah.
And that's what they did, is they just walked through this thing with melee and attack spells. And it was vicious. With an AC of 12, you're hitting auto
every time, pretty much,
65% of the time. Or no, 45% of the time, you're auto hitting this thing.
Yeah. Imagine 45% of the time it works every time.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's 45% of the time without modifiers. Each number on a d20 is 5%.
Yeah.
So
well, that's why I imagine in my scenario, I enjoy it. I like the idea of them not just fighting the Ettin and then going to find the female. I like the idea of the Ettin, the male Ettin, guiding them to her, and then they have 2 to contend with. Or, you said it before, you're never going to find them the same way. It says that so in the lore, but that's not true. It tells you what does happen when 2 of them meet up. They start to argue. Why not take it in a different direction? Do the thing that's unlikely. People always like to encounter the unlikely rather than just the typical. So they're wandering through the forest and they hear a bunch of arguing. 4 people arguing. What do they find? They find 2 Ettins. They walk through 1. They might not walk through 2.
That's true. I mean, AC 12 is still pretty low for me. I think even as a CR4 creature, I think we could easily bump that up to 15. And now we're down to a 40% chance to hit without any modifiers. So even if you've got a strength of 12, you've got a bonus of 1, so +1 to any of your roll, we're still looking at a 45% chance to hit, which is just fine for a CR4 creature, I think. Most of melee characters are going to have a higher strength bonus than just +1 or +2. Especially even at first level. Why would I throw an especially in front of that?
There's a part of me that wants to add something that involves reaction time for this creature. You've got 2 heads. They're used to working in tandem. Why not have something that really puts a pause on your players' decisions?
So you're thinking like reach or an extra reaction?
Like a reaction of some kind. I know some creatures have... The even lower CR ones have legendary actions. I think one of the lower ones is the Unicorn. I think they're a CR 9, and they have legendary actions. And a lot of times, legendary actions, you can only use so many per round, but they happen immediately after their opponent's action. So we're talking, yes, obviously a reaction, but not necessarily in the same action economy as you would for a player. You could have a couple options available for this, giving the Ettin the opportunity of having a reaction or an attack of opportunity, but it's based off of just someone attacking in general rather than them moving a threatened square or something like that. They just get a free attack off. They're just getting more hits in to really make your players think, oh shit, we can't just roll through this thing. And I think it fits well with the heads and their higher perception, their higher passive perception, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think a 3rd attack easily could help bump this creature up. But going back to homebrew, obviously, like I said earlier, I'm going to cut out that giant part. They don't fit in the giant lore to me. They fit under orcs. And the way I tend to build my more intelligent creatures is I build them in bands. So you'd have a couple of basic orcs, you'd have an orc chieftain, you'd have probably an orc shaman, which would be kind of a dumbed down version of the druid. Mm-hmm. So you'd have your spellcaster, you'd have your grunts, you'd have your warrior, and then, you'd have a brute. Mm-hmm. And that brute could be an ogre, it could be a bugbear. But I think for orcs specifically, an Ettin would fit really well here.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You've got a group of orcs with, maybe a Yeth Hound, or a Shadow Mastiff or something like that on the chain. So I'd probably plug it into like an orc warband, and I would build that warband in a specific way. So I would have orcs as pawns at kind of the first level for the general grunts. I'd have a couple of orcs with long-range weapons, whether they be short bows or long bows, something for a volley fire. I would have shaman, some sort of dumbed-down druid without wild shape, so they could control the battlefield a little bit better. I would have an orc chieftain. And then I'd throw in an Ettin there. But I think the Ettin wouldn't be willing because they're so antisocial. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of the Ettin being like chained, literally chained to this orc warband and a slave. So not only does that give the PCs an opportunity to fight something a little bit bigger, a little bit badder, something that can smash, or something that can knock shit around, the orcs could have always fashioned something like a breastplate for it to up that AC exponentially. Right. Mm-hmm. And then they've already got a +7 to hit, which I think is just fine. So you've got...
Maybe that's even part of how they've imprisoned it. It's this sort of
like
metal casing.
Like a harness.
That they keep... exactly.
Like a breastplate kitty harness. And that, not only that, for larger encounters like that, I like giving the PCs an option to negotiate. So the Ettin could be the thing that they talk down. We'll free you if you turn on your orcs. Right. And then you've got an NPC ally that has no real attachment to the party, so it helps smash the orcs, gives the PC an extra set of hands, and then gets the fuck out of there. Whether that be a charm person spell or some variety of just diplomacy. Is that a skill?
Yeah. Persuasion.
God,
Close enough.
I just need to have my DM screen open while we're doing this, I think.
Yeah, I like what you're playing with there because it does specify in the monster manual that they do not have any particular loyalty to the orcs. They will work for them with the promise of loot and food, but if, like it says, if that promise is not met, then they will turn. And I kind of love the idea of like you making that scenario, and I love to like write things in the background of why and how the Ettin got into that position to begin with. Even if the players will never figure it out, it's something that I like to have in the back of my head. And maybe this Ettin was working for them, and they reneged on their promise of loot, and he said, screw you, and they said, no, screw you back, and they chained him up, and so he's really got a reason, he got extra reason now to really resent these orcs. He was ready to just walk away.
Maybe he sees his opportunity when the PCs start demolishing the warband, and he just auto turns on them. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, when the PCs are beaten and bruised, maybe he turns on the PCs to get their shinies afterwards.
Yeah.
Or she.
Or she.
So I like that idea of attaching them to something else because they are kind of squishy for a CR4 creature for my liking. And that's easily solved by bumping up their AC. I think their HP is just fine. I think their to hit is fine.
Sometimes you could even just explore. They only have 85 standard, and it's the 10d10 plus 30. Sometimes you just be like, screw it, I'm making it max. That's 130 HP.
Yeah,
just call it a day.
That's pretty big too. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good option as well. But I find that there are really two ways to look at bulking up creatures. You either bulk up their AC to make the PCs hit them less, or you bulk up their HP. Mm-hmm. They both have their negatives. So if you keep hitting something and it doesn't go down, the players start to lose interest. And if you can't hit something, the players start to lose interest, but they get frustrated. Mm-hmm. So I think the HP might be a good route to go, but with an AC of 12, that's where I would lean into. Mm-hmm. Like my players are consistently, they're consistently hitting AC 16, 17.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that I couldn't throw, just bulk the AC up to 18 or 14 even. Mm-hmm. I think that's totally reasonable. Almost everybody's going to hit that every time. And it doesn't have to be a mechanical reason. It doesn't have to be chainmail. Maybe they've just got a metal plate shoved into their loincloth.
Maybe the grime on them is extra crusty today.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe they're just wearing like a black ooze.
Yeah, they slow their movement down. They're covered in hardened clay. They bring them down from 40 speed to 25 or something like that, and just make them. Sure, totally ridiculous.
Yeah, or maybe the orc shaman casts mage armor on it or something like that.
Sure,
there's
definitely.
There are possibilities renown there. I haven't given Ettins enough respect in the past, and after going through this episode, I think that they deserve a lot more than I've shilled out for them.
I think we can both agree we're finding that even we're exploring these sort of smaller creatures to start to a degree, and they had surprised us each time on what they are capable of, or just I think it's a big part of just what we're doing and trying to do with this podcast is to explore them and bounce ideas off each other, and preferably the community as well going forward. And I think it's just really cool to sit down with a creature you've underestimated and have like a 1 hour conversation, and all of a sudden you're reimagining the whole thing. And it's that exchange of ideas and brainstorming is a huge part of playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's a big part of what we're trying to do right here, right now, and it's just really cool and it's inspiring. It gets your creative juices flowing.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. So with that, I think we're just gonna thank you guys for checking out the Ettins episode. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I learned a lot this episode. And next week is going to be gargoyles. In 2 weeks, it'll be gargoyles. So if you have any stories for gargoyles, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or our email address at encounterpodcast. encounterthispod@gmail.com or at encounterpod on Twitter. I'm going to write these down too so they're in front of me.
I don't think it'll help.
No, they won't. Thank you, audience.
Listeners.
I've been Lori.
Community. I've been Nori.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, friends.